Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new James Blake album, Playing Robots into Heaven. This is the 6th full-length LP from producer, songwriter, singer Mr. James Blake, whose style and career are kind of difficult to sum up because he's got so much range as a DJ, an electronic music artist, an occasional hip-hop production collaborator, singer, pianist. He wears many hats, continues to do it all, and has recently dropped one of the more difficult to categorize records of the year. Now, let's rewind back to 2021 when James came out with his record Friends That Break Your Heart, which was pretty much his most focused album in terms of flexing his singer-songwriter muscles, really pushing them to their limit, in part so he could end that chapter of his career for a moment and move on to something else. Beats, modular synths, electronics generally, pretty much the name of the game on Playing Robots into Heaven, where it seems like James is giving himself as few artistic boundaries as possible and just allowing whatever artistic whim grabs at him to bring him wherever it wants to go, which has led to a project that is a little all over the place, but there is a slowly intensifying progression to the madness. The intro asking to break is a chill tone setter of sorts, a mild motif, with a laid-back beat, heavenly vocal harmonies, and some chopped-up piano passages. There is a serious stillness to it that just has me waiting for what's to come. There are some lyrical refrains on the track too, saying true love allows for a break, which I'm not sure whether or not to take that on face value or maybe interpret it as an association between James and music or James and his audience in terms of there being enough love there to allow him this chance to just do something different. The following track, Loading, is a true blue dance cut, but done in a way that is true to James's style. The groovy and driving kicks are there for sure, but there's also these glistening synth passages and what sounds like churchy organs. Some pristine, gorgeous, pitched cherub vocals too. It's a visceral track, but it's still packed with all of those super regal and pretty aesthetics that make James' music what it is much of the time. It's like a remix of one of his songs that don't exist. The dance production then gets even more explosive on the track Tell Me, with bigger kicks and some stuttering synth leads. It's giving 2 a.m. warehouse rave with lasers flying in every direction. But also, again, it's like a remix of a James Blake song that doesn't exist. A good one, but still. Now, of course this song exists. This is the song, and it exists. I'm just saying the same beautiful keyboard work and vocals that you might typically catch on one of James's ballads turns up also on these tracks. You're just hearing it in more of a dance context, and it works. Which is also the case for the track Fallback. These cuts add up into quite the 3-track run on the album, and then we hit a switch up with the song He's Been Wonderful, which is made up of so many disparate elements. You have these glitchy hits of bass, very sparse and dry beats, some gospel piano and group vocal samples, plinky and plucky synth cycles, and finally these persistent counts of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's such a potpourri of different sounds that I'm not exactly sure works entirely, but I'm glad James's mind goes there and possibly sees more common ground where most people might see a clash. Big Hammer is another beat, but with more cohesion this time around. We have some very dry perks in bass, these stuttering robotic synth passages, which are topped with these chopped up dance hall vocal verses. I don't really mind all these elements as a combo, but the pacing leaves a bit to be desired. The progression is kind of slow, and I wish it varied a bit more as it went along, because I think kind of saturating the mix with effects didn't really make for a super strong finish. We head back into house territory with some shuffling garage rhythms on Want You to Know, but this time we're getting synths and beats and production that are so light and airy and blissful, it doesn't have a super strong bite with it, at least not in comparison with other tracks here. Though I do think the song comes to a pretty strong finish with some zigging and zagging samples and a sort of chaotic bass breakdown. From here, James hits us with a kind of abstract final leg. There's Night Sky, which is kind of like some super off-kilter beat music with some heavily treated lead vocals. It sounds like something that would come out on like Flying Lotus's Brain Feeder records, but on an LSD trip that sends you through the pearly gates. It's fine while it's on, but there's not a whole lot about the track that stuck with me. Then Fire the Editor, I think, is the closest James comes on this record to, getting back into singer-songwriter mode, as the beat is not super danceable and the vocals are raw, intimate, and there's a pretty clear narrative coming off of them, with James singing about this internal voice, this internal editor, creating this sense of fear around failure or trying something new, trying something different, going in another direction, which obviously the desire to do that, the escape from the conventional, is what this record is all about for him. If You Can Hear Me is a shorter moment on the album, kind of another motif. In an interview I had with James, he talked about how this piece was originally supposed to be a part of the soundtrack for the movie Ad Astra, though obviously he ultimately did not end up involved in the film. But I guess he had these keys and this poem and vocal passage recorded and done. The words very much reflect on one's connection with their father. It's kind of an odd addition to the record considering its origin. However, it does kind of effectively bring us mood and vibe-wise into the stellar title track, The Finisher, which is this beautiful modular ambient synth piece with a few different layers going on, a lot of atmosphere, and the vibe of this thing, I think, is exactly what the title promises. Robots slowly marching into heaven. It is equal parts beautiful and eerie. Like the best ambient pieces, it puts me in a lull, into a hypnotic state. I'm not so much worried about how long is it lasting, how long is it going to go on, is it going to move or progress into anything beyond this. It's a sense of stillness, it's a sense of place that I'm just immersed in, I want to get lost in, and yeah, this piece conjures all of that and more. Overall, I felt this was a very good album from James, even if it's not one of his most organized. There are quite a few great dance and experimental cuts on this thing, and at the very least, interesting moments that fuse together multiple elements of James's repertoire. I'm feeling a light to decent 7 on this one. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, James Blake, forever.